Hello, everyone. The topic for the day will be human resource reporting, documentation, and human resource information system. We will be diverging all the discussions with respect to these three topics of reporting, documentation, and information or system. Remember, these three topics are akin to one another. Absolutely, the documentation and the digitization would means HRIS. The reporting itself is all about documentation, so this is very important. So what are the documentation that is there in which particular part of the things? We would like to go around it slowly and steadily, definitely for the next half an hour. Please go through the videos. We'll talk about the recruitment policies, we'll talk about the staff orientation, the retention of the staff, the attendance, the leave policies. We will definitely touch on the grievance handling, drug, alcohol abuse, probably the critical incident report that needs to be documented and put into your things, the employee relationship, the personal debts if you have, the performance evaluation, the feedback, the insurance policies, and last but not the least would be the termination policies, which is getting impacted and which brings the corporate body or the company to a lot number that goes around it. So, your recruitment policies, it is all about it. So, what has been done? Recruitment, is it done on an in-house basis or it has been outsourced altogether? So, detailed process has to be put into records. This needs to be understood. The guide has to be prepared altogether. The advertising to the position to ensure that the applicant pool is diverse and qualified. Ensure that there are no exclusions because it might put the company into litigation issues, and we do not want to have any tryst with any laws of the land. So we need to interview the candidates, screen them, offer a position, conclude the search. Remember, these all this process needs to be documented and reported as on when on. So new regular staff orientations would be basically usually 90 days period that we go around it. What do we do in the first 3 months of this orientation process to understand the potential and the performance of the employees? This is very relevant. And thereafter evaluate the compatibility as the case might be. Orient the employees to the job which we relate out all. So new regular staff employees, HR file of each staff is maintained. Definitely, we call it an annual confidential report or the personal profile of a staff as to what was his or her joining date, what was the promotion date, what all trainings has been invited, what were trips, official trips that was been taken care for. File includes the following documents: the ID proof that needs to be going around it, and this is the government ID proof that we're talking about, the permanent account number in terms of their savings, provident fund in terms of a gratuities, the account number that needs to be go around it, the address proof, the residential address proof, be it the permanent or the temporary. In case if the employee is from a different city, both the residential address proof needs to be there. The copy of the employment agreements or the appointment letter has been popularly known. The certificates, be it of the educational and the professional, needs to be carried forward, deposited. A copy needs to be there with the company all the time. This is essentially part of the orientation, the staff retention process. We'll talk into the next slide, wherein we speak that each employee, every individual that is working for an organization or an asset for the organization, the environment should place enough attention to the system to inform us accordingly. Attention to be given to attract and probably project the right people, induct the right people in the organization. When efficient people are working in the organization is destined to blow, make its presence known to everybody and around the globe. So staff retention is a culture of interdependence wherein none of the individual, none of the employee has been looked in a negative light. It is the dignity that counts. So it is all about building relationship. We do not take challenges alone. Remember, it's always a teamwork. Create and maintain systems that allow people to grow professionally. Absolutely given out there. So attendance and leave policies are which we talk about it now, this is needs to be documented, this needs to be reported, and when this documentation takes place on a digital platform, it is human resource information system. So being absent or reporting from work altogether from the beginning of the time requires the notification to the supervisors in advance. This is a must. There should be nobody who could be kept in the dark, because remember, the employee's absence might actually dent into the productivity of the organization. The departmental head is responsible for maintaining work schedule. Employees are allowed to take as many as 3 leaves in a quarters, probably. That means a leave a month without notice, probably, and then probably medical leaves as per the requirement, which is there permissible within the company's framework. So this is what we do around it. We have the concept of casual leaves. Now, again, the number of casual leaves, the number of medical leaves can change. Remember, during the probation, usually no leaves have been provided. When you are under scrutiny, no leaves can be provided. This needs to be taken forward altogether. So now we'll come to the concept of grievance handling. The proceedings are informal in nature. Grievance handling means the people are not very fond of the way that things are going around it. The proceeding needs to be informal in nature. Because the aggrieved person might opt for the legal action, and the internal grievance process will cease to exist altogether. So this is very important that you should minimize the damages as much as possible. You should not take punitive charges to be hampered onto the organization. Let us curtail all the mistake, grievances, disputes, resolve them within the organization. All employees, including the aggrieved person, shall cooperate at every stage of the investigation of the grievances. Remember, why there is this dispute, why there is an aggrieved section of the employees. Now, this may be because of the unfair, unequal distribution of either work or remuneration or facilities that might be given around. So detailed grievance procedure is required. Yes, everything can be given into detailed thing. This needs to be reported, this needs to be documented. People who is being aggrieved upon can refer to the documentation as on when on basis, and accordingly places his grievances there. So grievance handling, how do we go around it? Number one, to address the employees' dissatisfaction with the company, that needs to be taken care of. To appeal performance evaluation, that needs to be understood time and again. To address action from individuals outside of the company, we do not want to have punitive charges. We do not want to have legal cases as far the companies are concerned. To address the situation over which the HR lack authority to remedy, that is what is true. To address, remember, to address the aggrieved person, to address this reason of dissatisfaction, to understand what makes a person, what makes an employee or a group unhappy with the company. That is what is the essence of handling. The process, there are basically three stages altogether. Stage number one is to understand the agreed person problem in writing. This is very important. It cannot be oral. The decision of the departmental official shall be given in writing to the grievances. Now, this written format becomes a documentation for yourself. It's an HR document that goes around it, and multiple copies of the appeal and the decision should be forwarded to the HR and the other verticals as or when required. Next comes the stage number two. If the grievant is not satisfied and resolved in within the stage number one, he might or she might actually write an appeal. This time, not to the supervisor, but to the human resources. This is what documentation is all about. It. This is what all reporting is all about. It. That now it is up to the HR to investigate the appeal, to dig out if what are the fallacies that he or she is claiming. The senior officer shall render the decision in writing. When I say decision, it is the findings, the outcomes of the investigation that the has taken. Now comes the alcohol part, the drug abuse part, strictly prohibited in this property altogether. That is not to be taken for thing. You have to ensure that nobody is under the influence of drug. Nobody and no unauthorized utilization or usage of drugs and alcohol within the workplace should be permitted. Reporting to work under the influence of the alcohol, drug alcohol abuse, the corrective things would be first and the foremost thing, not to escalate the issues, give a verbal warning, take the person aside, make him a stern verbal warning that goes around it. If repeated, definitely termination is the thing to go around. So, employee relations. Supervisors are responsible for training and assisting, definitely motivating and directing the corrective behavior of the staff. They are responsible to make the subordinates aware of the expectation that the management has from them. Supervisors should seek to correct the problem at least with a disruption of the amount of the work environment. Progressive discipline is utilized for regular non-probationary employees, may include oral warning, written warning, suspension, ultimately discharge. Oral warnings are typically issued during the private conferences between the supervisors and the employees. Employees may be issued a written warning as a letter or a memo. This is very important. It is almost like a show cause wherein it tells it to you that your behavior is not appreciated, your performance is not up to the mark. Non-exempt employees may be suspended without pay. The people who are not on a regular payroll might be actually be suspended without pay or for such incidents, and probably might warrant a permanent also. Now we'll talk about the personal debts. The company expects its employment to employees to be prompt in payment. Definitely yes, there should not be any dispute as far as the payments are concerned. Any employee who failed to do so be subjected with the writ of sequestration or any other payroll that needs to be deducted for. So if there are provident fund, if there are advances, if there are money which have been taken for other expenses on behalf of the company, a proper account has to be given. If not, has to be returned to the finance department. The performance evaluation, we come into it. The performance evaluation is the crux of the HR policies of the HR department. The company's performance depends on the performance of the employee, and it is designated to do what? It is designated to do document the performances based on essential job function, being very clear, realistic job standards, promote a high level of employee performances through consistent feedback, definite feedback, encouraging feedback from the supervisor. Talking of the feedback and coaching occurs on an ongoing basis at an basically every quarters or probably every biannual basis. The purpose of feedback and coaching is to recognize effective performance, provide determining coaching for improvement altogether, the opportunity for supervisors to discuss them with the employees for their job standards and update them as performance altogether. The company makes available groups accident death insurance coverage for employees. This is only, remember, only for regular and confirmed employees and not for the temporary employees. About it, the insurance policy, these needs to be documented, this needs to be reported, this has to be stored in your human resource information system. The termination policies, if the employee terminates the employment relationship, what are the documents which are required? The employee should fulfill the notice association with the position that it occupies. He or she goes around it, and every position would have a different notice period, a different employment contract, and one should honor that employment contract for the benefit of the company, employee per se, or else the release certificate might be withheld. If the employee is terminated for reasons which are considered a misadventure, a misconduct, it should be done on an immediate basis. If the employees is terminated which are not considered misconduct, the termination shall have at least a document session with the employees. Now we are talking about HR reporting. Now remember, we're talking about HR documentation in case there is certainly not gross misconduct. Things are because of performance, things probably because the company is downsizing. Now, this needs to be documented, this needs to be discussed, this needs to be thoroughly made understood by the employee as to what are the reasons for going around it. In case of a serious misconduct, definitely the termination should be swift and immediate. The code of conduct includes the following. What are they? The following principles of being ethical, honesty, integrity, of keeping their words, keeping the promises alive, loyalty, fairness, and respect for each other. This is all about dignity. Treat every individual, every employee, irrespective of the position he or she is holding in the company, to respect them, because every individual has the dignity, the law binding, the commitment to excellence, reputation and morale, leadership and accountability is all about the code of conduct, which will be further excluded in the subsequent slides. We talk about the conduct in terms of values. What values? People have to be honest. People should be non-biased. People should be non-prejudiced about their environment, about their colleagues, about the work culture, and so on and so forth. Accountability, taking responsibility for your own action to ensure appropriate use of information, exercising diligence, duty of care, obligation, avoiding conflict of interest that we keep on going around it. The code of conduct includes the standards of practice. Remember this thing: maintain an active personal and professional development program, create and support environment that fosters team emphasis on the quality, recognize customers, promote learning, maintain and commitment to an improvement of a professional, address concerns, provide for the performance and quality management training, establish specific quality related issues for the goals of the management. This needs to be understood time and again. We need to go around it. We need to say, speak about, do the things every now and then. The code of conducts include the following. Disciplinary action at work can be performed due to the following reasons. We need to anticipate them: the abusive behaviors at work, uninformed absence at workplace, lack of work standards, sort out problems. This is very true. People don't actually sort out problem, they let it boil down under. As a result, at one point of time it might go bust and things can go for a downturn altogether. This is very important. Please understand, sorting out of problems should be done on an informal basis. It should be done on a daily basis. Try to diffuse the situation, try to diffuse any proposition that might arise. If even if it is your gut feeling that is telling it to you, even if there are no proper documents around it, remember, sorting out problems eliminates a lot of disciplinary and dismissal procedures altogether. So please abstain from abusive behavior, abstain from behavior that might not be objected, that might be not respected by others. This is what is required. Human resource information system will talk about the HRIS, the things that we have already spoken previously. Remember previously that we have spoken, I have to be documented. When documented on a digital platform, it is basically nothing but human resource information system. It's a systematic procedures of collecting, storing, maintaining, retrieving, validating data as per the requirement of the department. So HRIS, remember to never to forget this. What is HRIS? It's a systematic procedures of collecting, storing, maintaining, retrieving, and validating data needed by the organization about its human resources. So, data collection. What are the data collection methods altogether? We have the payroll benefits, the performance appraisal, the training and development, the recruitment selection, the employment and job data, which we have already covered in this particular videos previously, in the previous slides of my thing. I have covered everything. Remember the payroll, the performance appraisal, the TND, the training and development, the recruitment issues, the selection process, the employment and job data, and thereby, if we want, if the top management wants a particular report at a point of time, that report needs to be generated with a speck of a moment, and that is what HRIS component is all about. It, this is all the things which we go around. So Why acquiring and implementing HRS system? It is again a circular in process altogether. Look at yourself. It is all about the need analysis, which leads to the design and the development of the reports, which leads to the design and development of the document in the first place, and then the percolations leads to the implementation and maintenance of the report and report generation. So this is all about acquiring and implementing human resource information system, needs analysis, design and development, maintenance and implement comes the need analysis. We'll talk. Let us talk one by one these three things all together. What are the need analysis? What needs to be documented for by an organization? The departmental data. First and foremost thing, who are coming, what are their outputs, what are they being processed around it. Determining the needs for the reports is the vibrant of options that goes around it. Analyze short and a long term needs. Remember this thing. Analyze your short and long term needs, determine specific systems altogether. Vendor bids or packaged are considered. Make decisions on the system. Let your system tell it to you, guide you to a decision, and let your decision be known to everybody, all the stakeholders to which it have been impacted. Need analysis is the call of the day. Determine departmental needs. Again, I repeat, determining the needs of the report, look for the long-term prospects and the short-term gains, determine system specification, vendor bids or packaging are considered vital, make decision on the system, required thing. So we come to the next step is design and develop. Before we go to the third step of implementation and maintenance, under design and develop, what do? We design the project plan. We propose before we actually implement. We propose a plan to the user group. We make the system. We purchase the system. We modify the system. We customize the system to the requirement of the organization. We develop procedures. We develop guidelines. We test the system and user acceptance then and there. This is very thing. This is the pilot study that we goes around here. As a pilot study, then convert the data to the requisite framework and train the system staff to implement it. So this is what is design and development is all about it. Deciding on the plan, purchasing the system, modifying and customizing to its requirement, to your requirement, then probably lay down your guidelines, the procedures, then try run the system, test the system and the acceptability, what are the report that is generated, convert the data and probably then implement the system after training the staff around it. Implementation and maintenance, wherein then we have to utilize and train all the employees, make system available to the human resources, develop user documentation, conduct field analysis, test system and user acceptance altogether. This is what we are talking around it. Maintain and enhance everything. You need to be up to date every day. Evaluate, modify if there are changes that is coming across, incorporate them, execute them and accentuate them to your employees. Make the system permissible to all the employees. Be transparent. Train all your employees is the fundamental things to go around it, and keep on doing the field analysis surveys as on when on basis. Based on the outcomes you should evaluate and modify. That is what is meant by the and maintenance. So why HRIS and HRM? What we are talking about it in terms of HRIS, we are using it not only for strategic purposes, not only for job analysis, not only for EEO. Remember, EEO stands for Equal Employment Opportunity Analysis, recruitment and selection. That is vital, which I've been told, telling it to you. HR development. Then comes the performance appraisal, the compensation benefits, the health and safety. Remember occupational safety and hazard analysis. The OSHA tells us that an employee should be working in a very safe environment, a very productive environment. Proactive management should follow it around so that there are no harmful effect that can come around it. In fact, if an employee is working in a dangerous situation, proper precaution has to be given, proper care has to be given, proper acceptance level of medical facility at the vicinity should be kept, labor relations and the future that needs to be marked altogether. The future beholds us. The future is for all of us, and it's a glorifying future if we utilizes HRIS, human resource information system, in comes the ethical issues and the evaluation issues. What about the ethical issues? It's all about disclosure and privacy. Not everything to be disclosed to all the people altogether. You remember, this is an age when people are very private about themselves. They would not like to divulge even their health data to any other person. On other, when I say other person who are not pertaining to the immediacy or the requirement. So we need to understand those ethical issues. Evaluation issues is all about efficiency and equity, about talking about the input versus output, about the speed of what effectiveness is all about issues. Backward and forming forward. Let us come to the last slide. It is all about summing up. So basically, we are using HRIS documentation from HRM, from strategic HRM to reporting, everything. Let us, it is be EEO data, linking compensation, performance appraisal, and look at any system, be it the expert system, the ethically considered one, and so on and so forth. You need to know that all policies, always be open to it. Remember, all policies are subject to reviews, and everything can be revised. It can be edited further. Things can be step can be introduced. Certain step can be eliminated. So we need to be keeping an open mind when we are implementing the reporting system, the document process, and the human resource information system. Thank you for watching this particular video.